Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Sean, and I'm back with another SRT Live. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're checking us out in the Powerhouse private Facebook group, thank you for being here with us today. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks so much. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that way you can get up-to-date real estate, economic, and mortgage news in the palm of your hand. And I'm excited. It's a big week for housing and inflation. Can the economy continue to turn the corner? We're going to talk about that today. But as we always do, let's start with the week in review. Last week was a pretty big week. We had a lot of economic data come out, starting with housing. We had building permits and housing starts. And this tells us about what the construction in the housing industry is looking like, and it projects what kind of inventory that we're going to have going forward. Now, both of these numbers shrank from their previous levels and fell below estimates. Housing starts missed estimates by almost 50,000 units on an annual run rate, came in at 1.34 million. The estimate was 1.48. And so we're shrinking on housing starts, and this is also lagging household formations, which is exacerbating the inventory issue. Permits came in similar level, came in at 1.44 million annual run rate. This is down almost 60,000 from previous levels. So we're seeing starts and permits shrink right now. Now, we're right in the middle of summer and we've got the demand out there, but we're still seeing these levels shrink. So that begs the question, what's causing this to happen? Is it an issue with projections? Do construction companies and builders feel like their projections that they need to keep inventory a little bit tighter to control the market? So there's a number of different things that could lead to this, but ultimately on the surface, we're seeing construction lag needed inventory. Now, as always, we get jobless claims. We got that last Thursday. And as you heard me say in the past, the labor market has been extremely robust. Every time we think it's softening, it comes back with a vengeance. And this week was no different. We saw jobless claims tick down quite a bit from 237,000 the previous week to 228,000. Now, if it's been a little while since you've listened to me or if you watched, let me just go through the phases. With the labor market, we're not just going to see these numbers spike up. Ultimately, when employers let go of employees, that's really the final phase for employers to cut costs. They're going to start by freezing any further hiring. They're going to say, hey, we're not going to hire anybody else. We're going to stick with the employees that we have and maybe lose people through attrition. The second wave that's going to happen is they're going to start cutting things like hours worked. So maybe it's a part-time or a full-time worker and they get hours cut. Instead of working 40 hours a week, they go to 38, or instead of working 20, they go to 18 or 15. So they're going to cut those hours. And then finally, the last phase that employers are going to leverage to cut costs when it comes to human capital, right? Human resources, is they're going to then let those people go. That's when they're going to show up on these claims. And so initial claims did drop, just proving that the labor market is continuing to be robust, which is good and bad. It's not so bad for the economy, but that does mean the tighter the labor market, it's going to create wage pressured inflation, which is contributing to our overall inflation that we're struggling with as an economy. We also got continuing claims. Continuing is individuals renewing their unemployment benefits, whereas initial is people filing for the first time. So continuing actually spiked up about 30,000 spiked about 30,000 from 1.72 million to 1.75 million. And so it looks like that's telling us a little bit of a story about employers not hiring as much. Now, every month we also get the JOLTS report, which measures job openings across the country. So it'll be interesting to see if this tick up in continuing claims translates to less job openings on that next JOLTS report. So we're going to keep an eye on that. And then finally, last week, we got existing home sales. And this is critical if you're a real estate agent watching this. Existing home sales make up about 90% of our housing sales on a monthly basis. So this is big information for us. So the annual run rate for sales dropped from 4.3 million down to 4.16 million. So we're seeing the number of sales decline. Now, we also saw supply come in at 2.8 months. Now, normal supply in a kind of even market is about 4.6 months of inventory. If no additional homes came on the market, we would sell out of the existing homes in about 4.6 months. So we're sitting at 2.8. And that tells us that we are still in an inventory shortage period. Now, ultimately, the inventory shortage period is going to be very geographically biased, right? There's going to be areas of the country that have more inventory, areas that have less inventory. But ultimately, this gives us a general idea of what inventory levels are doing. And here in the Dallas-Fort Worth or Texas geographic region, we're kind of a microcosm of that. Yes, we've got probably more homes that are coming in the market, but we also have a larger population of buyers as well. So 2.8 months, well below where we want it to be. And we're also seeing the demand component evident in the days on market. Nationally, we're still only averaging 18 days on market. Unbelievable that we're seeing those kinds of smaller or shrinking days on market. But that really just goes to illustrate that we do have continued low inventory. And we're seeing buying demand pick up a little bit as well. And I'll get a little bit more into that here in a minute. All right. So this week, big week across the board. Today, we got home appreciation information, and we get that from two sources. We get the FHFA, which is Federal Housing Finance Agency Home Price Index, and then we get the Case-Shiller Home Price Index. So FHFA, on a month-over-month basis, we saw appreciation in housing tick up 0.7%. This was a big win because economists were expecting a 0.2% increase in home appreciation. So we're right in line actually with what we got the prior month. Now, the appreciation levels do lag a couple of months. So the numbers from today are actually for the month of May. So we're seeing home prices back to rising on a month-over-month basis. And if we were to extrapolate that 0.7% over the course of 12 months, that's an 8.4% appreciation rate over the course of a year. Now, whether or not we'll actually see that robust of a number is yet to be seen. But if you're an agent working with home buyers, this is great information to be able to help them understand that, hey, it's still a great market to buy a home, because one of the biggest benefits of owning a home is that appreciation that you're going to get going forward. If you're a home buyer, know that prices are back on the rise. And although you may be in the camp of waiting until interest rates come down some, any savings from the interest rates coming down very well could be offset by having to pay a higher price, or being a buyer in a more competitive market where you're having to bid even further over maybe asking price to win a contract on a home. So really important pieces of the puzzle to take into consideration as you're A, an agent talking with your clients, or B, a home buyer deciding when is the right time to jump into the market. Now, the Case-Shiller Index, the year-over-year numbers came in down 1.7%, but this still beat expectations. Economists were expecting a reduction of 2.2% on year-over-year appreciation. Now, ultimately, this year-over-year number is a residual effect from the slightly negative numbers that we saw on the month-over-month basis from Q1 and Q2. And I'll get more into home price appreciation here in just a moment, but really important to note that we are back on the uptrend. All right, so talking about this week, again, blockbuster of economic data coming out this week, all very much market moving. So tomorrow, we get the wrap up of the Fed meeting for the month. They're in today and tomorrow, and we're going to find out what they're going to do with the Fed funds rate. We pretty much already have an idea, but we're going to hear from Jerome Powell at his press conference after the meeting, and that could sway the markets one way or another. We're also going to get new home sales tomorrow. This is especially important for real estate agents and myself, is because a lot of the inventory that we're going to see over the next 6, 12, 18 months is going to have to come from new construction. So watching those new home sales is going to be a key piece of that pie. On Thursday, we actually get the ECB rate decision, which is the European Central Bank, essentially the equivalent of our Fed. And we're going to see what they're doing to battle inflation as well. Will they increase their the equivalent of their Fed funds rate? We also get jobless claims, as we do every Thursday. And then on this Thursday, we also get the first reading of Q2 GDP, so we can get an idea of how the economy is growing or not growing. And then lastly, we get pending home sales, which measures signed contracts on existing homes. So another critical housing component to watch this week. Then on Friday, if that wasn't enough, we get PCE, which is personal consumption expenditure. This is inflation. This is an inflation report, and this is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. Ideally, their target is to get core PCE down to 2%. And so we're going to be watching that on Friday to see where that comes in. If we get some good numbers on inflation, that's likely to have a very positive impact on mortgage rates, which is great to hear. We definitely could use some good news when it comes to the mortgage rate front. We also on Friday get the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index. And that's just going to give us the pulse of consumers, the economy. How is everyone feeling about the direction of the economy? Are they feeling that they're optimistic things are getting better? Are they worried that things are going to get worse? We're going to find that out on Friday as well. All right. So what does it all mean? Let's dive in and talk about, do some translation here. Ultimately, talking about home price appreciation. So as I mentioned, the year-over-year numbers are reflecting negative monthly growth that we had in Q1 and Q2, but we are seeing prices start to rise again. And so we're likely going to see that year-over-year number flip back to positive here over the coming months, and we're going to continue to grow from there. Over the last 70, 80 years or so, there's really only been about 9 to 12 years in which home prices actually declined. So if you're waiting for that, 1 out of 10 years that home prices declined, may be a little bit longer of a wait. But I think that as you see home prices rise, you'll want to get back into the market. The other component of home price appreciation is that minimal inventory. Again, 2.8 months of inventory on the market. And that's resulting in demand exceeding supply. And we can see that evidence in that average days on market. So as long as demand is exceeding supply, we're going to continue to see rising prices. The extent at which demand exceeds supply is going to dictate the speed at which we see home prices rise. But ultimately, my personal opinion is when we see rates come down, we're going to see more buyers come back into the market. That's going to cause demand to rise further. And I don't think supply has the ability to keep up. So I think we're going to see home prices accelerate that growth. Great if you buy now or if you already own. Going to be tough if you're looking to buy 12, 24, 36 months from now, depending what else we see in the economy over that period of time. All right, second thing that we're looking at is the Fed. Most likely, we're going to see a 0.25% increase to the Fed funds rate. Just as a reminder, the Fed funds rate is not a direct correlation to mortgage rates. Fed funds rate is overnight bank-to-bank lending rates. So it really affects your short-term products as well as your unsecured products. Credit card, auto loans, personal loans, unsecured lines of credit, things like that are going to be impacted by the Fed funds rate. Now, if they increase that Fed funds rate and you're a saver, your bank may increase your interest rate on your savings account. So there is a little bit of positive there, but ultimately everything else gets a little bit more expensive, but not specifically mortgage rates. Now, if we see some positive inflation results, what we're looking for is the Fed to stray from their sentiment that they've been telegraphing with their comments of 2 more rate hikes this year. They've said it and they've said it again and again and again. Ultimately, we're likely going to see one tomorrow. But the question is are they going to back off of 2 rate hikes? Now, we're going to wait to hear from Jerome Powell tomorrow. Really pay close attention to his comments. But with the PCE inflation report on Friday, that's going to give us even more idea of what the Fed is likely to do moving forward. All right, lots of information to digest. We've got a big week ahead of us, but that's all that I've got for you for today. So again, this is SRT Live. I'm your host, Sean, with the Sean Richard Mortgage Team. If you have any questions about home buying, the economy, mortgage, you want to talk through options and plans, definitely reach out to me and my team. You've got my information right here, and you can also leave comments down below. Other than that, I want to say thank you so much. If you're watching in the private Facebook group, again, thank you so much for being an incredible part of our community. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so that way you've got SRT Live and market information coming to you directly to your phone. All right, well, take care. Have an incredible rest of your week. I'll be back next week with the next episode. Thanks so much.